Hey, before I kick off the podcast, I just want to shout out Next Door Clothing. Next Door, a clothing brand based out of Bondi in Sydney. They're making really nice jeans and shirts and hats. So go and check out their full range at nextdoorsydney.com. They're also artists, so you can go and check out a range of art. They put on rad parties, and I love what they're doing. So nextdoorsydney.com for the full range. Hey, it's Shan here. This week, I have a long conversation with friend and past guest, Mr. Jarrett Wilbraham. Jarrett is back on the show. You can check out our first episode. I think it was back in episode 179 from memory. But Jarrett and I, since that first episode, we've become quite good friends, I'd say. We really connected. We just see the world in a very similar perspective, and we're also from the same town originally, and we just really connected. There's something about Jarrett that, I can't quite put my finger on. He's kind of got this X factor about him. He's a deeply sort of sensitive human. He's a seeker. He wants to learn in everything he does, and he's deeply empathetic. He's really considerate of other people, especially like his loved ones, his friends and his family. He always wants to, make sure that everyone's looked after. He, definitely worries about other people. And he talks about that in this week's episode. Jarrett is another interesting paradox because he's a professional MMA fighter. And the Jarrett that you meet in everyday life is this kind, sensitive, deep, empathetic human. But then he gets in the ring and he's ferocious, like a savage. And he recently had a title fight down in Melbourne under a promotion called HEXS. It was an Australian featherweight title, which he lost. However, he really did win the fight. He dominated the fight. I think he knocked the other guy down 5 or 6 times. But when you watch Jarrett fight, you're watching something special, something different. He brings this energy that is just so engaging. I mean, whether you're into the sport or not, his whole personality is just on show. He just fights with complete abandon, like almost reckless abandon. Like to the point where he is just going for it. And, the reason he lost the fight is because he, made a fundamental mistake. He was taken to the ground and he did what they call giving up his back, which meant the other guy was able to get on his back and effectively choke him out from behind. And just to give you an indication of, Jarrett's determination, he refused to tap out and he went limp. The guy choked him out, like literally. And it was a mistake, a fundamental mistake. But if the fight actually finished that round and it went to the full fight, Jarrett definitely had won the fight on points. But it was a good lesson for him, and he's so humble in his lessons, and he's really taken it on. He definitely has that dream, that dream he wants to go on to bigger and better things. For MMA fighters, the UFC is kind of like the ultimate end goal. And, that fight that he had recently, whether, you watch UFC or not, and I do watch a fair bit of UFC these days. I've become, I guess, like a bit of a quiet fanatic of the sport. That fight was as good and as exciting as anything I've ever seen in the UFC. And, they're calling Jarrett's recent fight, one of the fights of the year in Australia, that's for sure. And I'm going to say maybe the world. It was just that intense. And full credit to his opponent who, was able to withstand some of the shots that he took and, tough enough to endure that and ultimately get the win. So, yeah, we go on a few different rabbit holes this week. Jarrett is another person who's very open about his use of psychedelics, especially as an elite athlete. He talks about how he always likes to have a psychedelic trip, leading up to a big fight. He says that it gets him in the right mindset. He learns something every time he does it. He really doesn't care. He's really open about it. He's not scared of ridicule or judgment there. We also talk about how he has been training with Alexander Volkanovski. He was one of Alex's training partners leading up to UFC 284, which was a huge event for UFC, especially Australian MMA professional fighters. So, he trains with him on a daily basis, honing his skills and learning. And we talk about that journey. But, overall, it's a long, casual conversation. It was so great to catch up with him, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you're enjoying the podcast too, you can subscribe on Buzzsprout subscriptions and pay what you feel that the podcast is worth to you, or don't do that. Maybe just follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And it'd be really helpful if you left a review on Apple Podcasts. It's kind of helpful in terms of spreading the podcast and getting a further reach, so I can get these messages across to people. Anyway, enjoy my chat with Mr. Jarrett Wilbraham, everybody. Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Whoa. Enjoy the dude, I'm pumped. Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's do this. Yes, Jarrett Wilbraham. Oh, man. How are you, bro?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just so stoked to talk to you, man. I'm a big fan. You know that.
Oh, man, I'm a big fan of you. You're a good friend of mine, and I'm a big fan of the podcast, and here I am back on it again. So, legend.
Thanks. Thank you, man. Do you think men need a violent outlet?
Maybe not all men, but I would definitely say the majority of men need some sort of violent outlet. Like, my take on it is we're hunter and gatherers, being taken out of our environment, put in this concrete jungle, and now we're trying to find our way through this. We're lost in a maze.
That's how it feels, hey?
It does.
I mean, I have friends that are so stressed out, and if you look at their life, they have everything they need, but they're still not happy.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone like that?
Of course. Most people we know. I mean, I'd be like that if I wasn't doing this sport. This sport's my outlet. It's become my life, and I need it. It's my medicine.
It is, isn't it? I can tell that about you. When I was watching your fight online down in Melbourne in February, when you were fighting for the HEXS title, when you fight, there's an X factor there that says this guy's fighting for his life. Would that be a fair assumption?
That's what it is for me now. I came to a big realization like 2 fight camps ago, just after we had our first podcast. I went and fought for the Wollongong War title. And I think when I went into that fight, it was like my mentality had shifted, my mentality had changed. And I would say that's because of, like we talked about on the last one too, working with psychedelics, and a realization that I had through doing that. I just had a chip on my shoulder now. I guess when I fight, it's like these people are trying to take away my life. Like, everything from me. I've given so many years to this sport. My brothers are both buying houses. Everyone walking around me, my friends have families and everything that they want. And I just feel that these people that I'm fighting now are just trying to take that from me.
Is that a pressure that you're putting on yourself or you're getting externally?
I think it's the reality of it actually is that.
Right.
I'm going on the 30 years old now.
Do you think that's too old to fight still?
It's not too old, but how long can I keep doing this for?
Yeah, I get it.
I've got goals. Like, I know I'm going to get there. I mean, I know I'm going to get there, but it's just a long road, and I'm fighting hard for it now. It's like every fight, I look at it like it could be my last. Like, I'm all in.
I know. You are all in, and you fight like you're all in. And I've said this to a few people since that fight. And a friend of mine, Simon Wills, who's been on the podcast, he actually flew down from Sydney to Melbourne to watch you fight. there is something so engaging about the way you enter the ring and the way you conduct yourself in the ring. It's as exciting as any UFC fight I've ever seen. Do you hear that a lot?
Oh, I know that. I wish that fight was on the UFC, because I would have got a 50K bonus, no doubt, for that. But yeah, it was a hell of a fight. Like, it's one of the best fights I've ever seen. I don't usually speak, highly of myself in any ways, but it was a good fight.
Oh man, I mean, is it getting called the fight of the year in Australia?
I think it's got to be up there for a fight of the year, and I made it that way, I feel, and it's the harsh reality of the sport is that you can beat the living life out of somebody for more than half the fight and then get taken on the ground, choked out, wake up in the morning, you're unscathed, and you're a loser. Like, what other sport can do that?
I mean, how do you deal with that mentally, like post-fight? What was the mentality the next day?
I don't let things upset me anymore. I really don't. I think I'm pretty stoic now. As soon as I lost, I was just like, fuck, what can I do? I know I made mistakes. That's the frustrating thing, is I had him hurt, and it's like there was a drop of blood in the water, and I just knew that I was one punch from getting him out of there, and I just started winding up on big shots. And it was just off those mistakes that I would get caught with big hits. But that's the frustrating thing, is that everybody remembers the first round too. After my corner, after Joe and Colby really sat me there for a minute and said, mate, calm the hell down. All you got to do is just touch him. You're going to get him out of there. Just be patient. I really came out and fought a really good second round. And that's how I need to fight. And I think everybody remembers that first round because it was one of the most chaotic rounds ever.
It was so wild, dude. It was wild.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to ask you that. Like, what was your corner saying to you after that first round?
Yeah, patient. Be patient. Calm down. Pick your shots. Yeah. I was just fired up, Yeah, I was wound up. I from the get-go, I wanted to put it on him, and it was intense when we were in there. I think that's what people don't really understand, is there's a whole situation going on between him and I. When he walks in, I was just really staring at him, like keeping eye contact, because I didn't have that in some of my earlier fights. And then when somebody did it to me, I was like, oh, why are they looking at me like that? And I'm like, well, I'm in a fight. Like, why does it matter how they're looking at me? So I go into the fight prepared for it now, and I'm ready to fight. So we're engaging in this stare, and he didn't really want to engage in it, I could see, but I just kept locking eyes with him and letting him know you're in for a hell of a fight. And then that would keep carrying on between the rounds. So after the round, I'd look at him again, and see how he's doing mentally. And I think he tried to touch gods with me at the end of the first round, and I just it was too late for me to turn and touch gods with him, but I just kept walking off, and I'm like, we're not done yet. And then I think that's what really frustrated him, was that I felt him break. I felt him look at me like, please, like, stop hurting me, like I want this to be over, kind of thing. And when he finally got me down and he got the choke and locked it in, and I knew that I wasn't getting out, I was just like, well, I'm not going to tap. You can put me to sleep. So when he put me out and the ref tried to pull him off, he just wouldn't let go, because I think that was a frustration of him, wanting me to tap and be like, you win, but I wouldn't give him that. So there's a whole other dynamic that's going on in there that people on the outside of the cage don't see.
Yeah, I could imagine. They're not face-to-face with him like you are.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty intimate in a way. You leave the fight, you spend just 15 minutes in there with somebody, and you know everything about them. Like, how far they'll stretch, like how... how game they are, how tough they are, how much drive they have, like a lot of things. And yeah, he was tough. I'll give that to him. He was, yeah, his jaw, man. I can't believe he took all those shots, but
yeah, we
also like I would have put him away.
I mean, did you knock him down twice in the first round?
I had him like real wobbled, like wobbling on his leg and kind of just standing still, just trying to get his bearings back. I think that was probably 3 times in the first round and then another 3 times in the second round. I hit him with that spinning back kick. That knocked him down, yeah.
Mate, that was so entertaining, dude. Yeah. It was so entertaining. He held you too long, though, when he choked you out. He did.
Yeah, I don't really care about that. It's a fight.
Yeah.
They'll make what they want of it, but I think he needed to do that, you know.
Did he mention anything to you after the fight about that? Say sorry?
I don't think I even knew about it because I was like out. So I kind of seen it when I left. I'm like, oh geez, he hung on to that for a long time. He hurt my neck pretty bad though.
Yeah, and how's that feeling? Is it okay?
Oh yeah, it is what it is. I should get scans on it, but I just don't want to know.
I love it. And you've had a really big year because prior to that fight, you're in your own training camp. You were also in the UFC 284 training camp with Alexander Volkanovski. And also, you know, Jamie Malaki was training with you as well. And who else came down? Who was in that fight camp with you? Craig Jones?
Yeah, Craig Jones, Frank Hickman, Brad Riddell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guys.
What did you learn from that experience, being around, you know, in that environment?
A lot. And if you watch the fight, I used a lot of the stuff that we worked. You know, when you see how Alex got back up off the ground with Islam, and then you watch how I got back up, it was very similar. So if it wasn't for his training camp, I feel that maybe I wouldn't have even got up off the ground. Who knows?
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's, you know, it's one of those things, you know, as a casual, you know, viewer on the lounge, you know, I'm just like, why are you giving up your back? You know, but it was just so fast paced. Can you recall the moment where you realised you did give up your back and there was you know, less opportunity of escaping?
Yeah, so he had me in full mount and he was heavy. Like, I don't think I'll ever fight someone that heavy again. He would have been 77, 78 kilos, and I don't even know how that's possible, but he was heavy. And when he had me in full mount, he wasn't really trying to posture up and punch. He kind of just was keeping the pressure on my head, so I couldn't really move, and I was just locking him down. And to be honest, I probably should have stayed there and just waited it out, but I knew that there was a whole round to go and I kind of had to get up because if it went to, who knows how the judges were scoring it. So I started to elbow escape and my corner was telling me elbow escape. So I started to elbow escape, but he knew where I was going. Usually what I'll do is I'll give my back half give up my back, and then as they go to take it, I'll spin back out. But he was really onto it. He ended up catching me in the gift wrap, triangling his legs. And it was very awkward, the position that he had me on. I was kind of on my side. So because I was on that angle, when he went to choke me, I couldn't hand fight because of the awkward angle that I was kind of folded on this arm. And I couldn't really reach over the top with my other arm. So he just got under my chin. Yeah, I knew it wasn't good. He's a black belt and a heavy black belt. And yeah. It was, yeah.
It is what it is, and I'm sorry to make you relive that, but it is interesting to hear it straight from, you know, your mouth directly. I know you've probably talked about it a lot since then, but in terms of your next step, I noticed you've just been put on the card for another promotion down in Melbourne in May. Is that correct?
Yeah, on the same promotion on HEXS. They just released that tonight. So fighting a guy from New Zealand, international opponent. And yeah, he's a good kickboxer, good striker. I think it's a hell of a matchup. That's why I was pretty excited for it.
Wow, man. And like, how are you feeling about it in terms of your fitness? Like, you haven't stopped training, correct?
No, I just continue to keep training. Fitness just builds each camp. I just get fitter and fitter each time. So, and this will be the first 3-round fight that I've had in, a long time. Like my last 2 fights were 5-round fights. So if that was the pace in my last one that I was pushing for 5 rounds, like, you can imagine how fast and hard I can go for 3.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, I love it. Yeah, anyway. I want to go back. You mentioned psychedelics. Look, it comes up all the time on the podcast with just you and other ones. And my last guest was a real advocate for them. And I actually just watched a podcast with neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, who was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. And, his credibility and reputation and career is at stake when he talks about these plant medicines, and he's now openly come out and said, I think they're a safe thing to do under the right circumstances. He really has put himself out there, which is really big. And these are the people I listen to. I don't listen to the mainstream media. I listen to experts such as him. But you sort of are. So this is a long-winded question, but you mentioned it on the last podcast and you've mentioned it again. Would you mind just relaying like your last experience with it and why you felt the need or desire to, put yourself under those circumstances again?
I take it every single camp. Yeah, like I take it just very close to my fight. Because for some reason, I don't really understand it. It's almost like I can't really even explain it. But the way that I learn in my martial arts journey, the lessons that I learn in that are kind of like the exact same lessons that I learn in my life at the same time. So even when I go through losses in fights, they're opportunities for me to make changes and learn and grow. And I realize that when I lose in fights like that last one, I didn't have a good balance. There was no balance between being calm and aggressive. It was just fully aggression. And I really did realize after that fight that my life's been lacking balance in every area. And that's something that I would take into my next trip, and an intention that I'll set that I'll then fix that problem and make sure that it doesn't come out in every area of my life, including my fight. But I've learned a lot, and in the last camp, I really did learn a lot at the same time. It was funny because it was explaining that I had to just stay on him in this fight. Like if I just stayed on him, he would eventually start to break. And I was just picturing while I was in this trip, like a honey badger, like I had to be like a honey badger. And in the fight, the commentator said, "Oh, Jarrett's like a bloody honey badger." I was like, what are the chances of that? It's just things like that. But the previous one before that, when I realized a lot about my life, was deep, and I realized that I had been weak as a person, even though that I didn't think that I was anymore. And that's what psychedelics continue to do, I think, is shatter your ego. So you believe that you are this person, and I believe that I'm a man, and I believe that I'm a good person, and that my life's, my house is tidy in a metaphorical sense. And then when I take these psychedelics, it kind of shatters that reality and says, well, no, that couldn't be further from the truth. Look at all these areas of your life that you can do better in. You've been lying to yourself, and now here it is. You're at a crossroads, and you can't get away from the reality anymore. How are you going to deal with it? And it's hard and it's painful and it scares me, man. Honestly, Shan, like, I'm scared to take psychedelics way more than I am to walk in and fight somebody in a cage. Way more scared. I hate it. I honestly hate it. But when I see what it keeps doing for my life, who am I to not take this substance if it's benefiting the people in my life? I think that's selfish of me to not do that. So I feel that I'm called to, and that it's something that I need to do.
Have they said that, the people in your life, that it has improved?
Yeah. Yeah.
Such as your mum?
My parents know about it. They can only see the changes that it's done. I don't think they necessarily agree with the idea of it, but they know that I'm a very mature person that can make the right decisions in my life, and I'm somebody that they come to with their problems. And that's something that also came up in my last trip, is because I've had a really sore neck, and I get like a tight jaw, and I get all these problems, and I realized that what it wasn't from my training or anything like that I've been believing it to be. It's from all this tension and stress that I've held from since my childhood and my parents' divorce. I felt like I was a part of that divorce, where I was involved in it. I knew what was going on. When I was at my dad's, I was, seeing him go through what he was going through. And when I was at mum's, I was seeing the pain that she was going through. So I was that person that was there trying to help both of them and make things better, and also look after my brothers so that they weren't going through, negative emotions. And I put all of that on my shoulders, and I couldn't carry, I carried the weight my whole life, and sometimes I just can't carry it anymore. And I think that's when I go distant and I become a weak person. And I don't realize that I go distant, but I call it selfish. I become selfish. And then I'm just not there for, my family as much as I should be. And that's when I realize it's not selfish. It's just I step away, because my brain is the glue that holds everyone together, and it has to be healthy, because if it's not healthy, then I feel like everything falls apart. So I'll distance myself. And when I took the last psychedelic, the last trip, I cried and let all of that out. And then I realized, and I said to Michaela, my partner who was there with me, I said, it's all right now. I'm ready to carry more load. I'm ready to deal with more shit. I didn't say to everyone, but I want to say to everyone in my life, I'm sorry I haven't been there, because I haven't been able to carry all the stress, but now I've released a lot of it, and I can bear to carry a lot more now.
Wow, man. How old were you when they divorced?
6.
And
5 or 6.
All these years later, you still feel a sense of responsibility to carry the burden of that separation?
Well, not really. I think it's just when you are in a role in your family or in any sort of group, you kind of just slip into that role, and that's just where you become. So as the years go on, you try to, people don't put you in that role, but you keep yourself in that role. You make sure that you're the person that's going around and making sure that everyone's all right. And, sometimes you do put yourself last in a way, and it's stressful, going through fight camps, and I just worry about everybody, my friends, my family. My mum's just had a big operation, my dad's gone through a divorce, and I want to be there for him, and they know that I want to be there for him. But even my dad, he doesn't put it all the stress on me. I can see him go distant, because he knows the stress that I'm already under, and that doesn't make me feel good when I know that he's going through a stressful time, and because of my life circumstances, I can't quite be there for him. But once I released that, that load that I'd been carrying, I feel like I can go through a fight camp, and I can go through the stress, and I can still be there to help him out.
Yeah, but it's interesting to hear this. To me, you sound like a complete empath. So you really do feel what other people feel, especially when it comes to your family, do you think that when you fall into that role, it gives you a sense of purpose?
I wish things were all good. I wish that, I wish that I didn't, and I don't have to fill that role, but yeah, I guess I just have to, because I always kind of have. I always want to be that person that, people can lean on when they're going through tough times. I think as we get older, life doesn't get any easier. Everyone's expecting that they're going to do this or do that when things are better. But, you want to know the big mystery of life is that things probably aren't going to get better. So just be content with what you have now, because you don't know if it could get better or worse.
Who do you lean on?
Oh, my partner, Michaela, she's literally my carer. She does everything for me, honestly.
You're what? You're what? You're
what?
Cow carer. That's what he said. She's like your cow. I was like, dude. She's like a carer, she's like one of the most caring, selfless people I think I've ever met as well. And that's why I'm really drawn to you guys, and like a lot of people are, because then there's this man of violence, controlled violence, obviously. And that's why I wanted to ask you that first question is do you think that men need violence? And I'm changing. I think men do. I think men should have permission to be violent, in a controlled way, and I think men should be allowed to be men. I feel like more and more I'm just seeing a lot of men that are oppressed, and that's leading to them, like you said, becoming distant, isolated, and then when people get isolated, they get weird. And then that's when they start doing weird things, and then that's when they start engaging in numbing behaviours, alcohol, drugs, pornography, and it just beats their spirit down. And I don't know.
I would probably trust your opinion on that more than mine, because, I feel that I'm just violent from life circumstances, to be honest. I didn't really go too deep into it last time on the podcast, but through my life before I even started fighting, I'd been in nearly 50 fights, and that's kind of just unheard of, really. And I didn't realize the effect that would have on me, where I'm fully desensitized to violence, really. I'm not... My first few fights, when I would fight my opponents, not before MMA, but in MMA, when I'd fight my opponents, I would go home and genuinely feel bad for them. And now it's just kind of left me. I don't know. It's weird. I'm only just speaking about it truthfully, but it's just a hard thing for me to really speak about violence, because it's not like I have both sides of knowing what non-violence is. So I'm sure there's men out there that can go through life and not be violent and live good lives, but I'm not a violent person outside of fighting, which is really strange. Anyone would probably think that I am, but who knows? If I wasn't fighting, I used to be a really big risk taker. So I would drink and do stupid things, stupid. And some things were borderline, you could die if you could live, or you could die. Oh, well, let's do it. I'd like the adrenaline rush. And my brothers are a bit like that too. Probably not Corey, my youngest one, but Blake's wild. He'll do stupid stuff if you tell him to do it. And I think that's what they call now toxic masculinity. And they really don't like it when, we're there drinking, and not me anymore, but we're whipping each other with charger cords. And, if you walked into the room, you'd be like, why are they doing it? Why are these guys acting like absolute idiots? But it's that's just their little release. Let them do that and then go back to work and live their lives.
Exactly. But also give them an outlet. I mean, that's the outlet that they look for when they don't have a more healthy outlet, And I remember in our last episode, you actually said to me that you feel safer in an octagon than you do anywhere else, because, you know, all those street fights you had were so wild and dangerous and caused so much trauma. You said you actually feel peaceful when you go into the octagon. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't get nervous for the violent side of it. I want to win. I really want to win, and that's what means a lot to me. But I really don't care what happens to me once I'm in there. And yeah, I've been in situations where it's out of my control, when I'm surrounded by multiple people. I've had my head stomped into the ground, and I literally have been in positions where I thought I was going to die. And I think if I didn't get up and run away, that I would have probably been killed. And when you go through stuff like that, you can't look at a MMA fight anymore and think that it's dangerous. It's weird. I just can't.
Well, it's controlled, it's regulated, there's a referee there, you've trained, you know.
You got a mouth guard in, you're only fighting one person, the guy's got gloves on, the referee's going to pull him off you after the fight ends, or he's going to try anyway.
I love that. You're only fighting one person. Like, yeah, sweet. It's easy. This is easy. It's not like 8 dudes trying to stomp on the head.
Exactly.
You know, you remind me of Justin Gaethje just then. I watched, you know, all his press leading up to UFC 286 and then post-fight press conference as well. So he's so stoic, and he's also made some comments about how he goes, I don't feel anything in there. I'm not excited. You know, I'm just in there to get the job done, and I'm free of nerves. He goes, it's weird. And you sort of said the same thing, and as an outsider, it's really hard to understand, actually.
I don't think many people are like that, though. Even fighters, I don't think many fighters are like that. I've been in a lot of dressing rooms with a lot of people over the years. Mm. You don't see many calm people going out to fight.
Okay. But you're saying that you have to work hard to get yourself into that balance of calm and aggression, yeah?
Yeah, especially even in the last one, walking out, I'm like, hype up, man. Like, you're in fight. It was nearly 12 o'clock at night, so it's the latest that I've ever walked out to fight before. I'm drinking Red Bulls at 11:30 or so.
Why?
Just to kind of stay awake, and I just wasn't really hyped up. But once I got in there, I felt in my zone. I really did. I felt in the zone, and once the fight started and I took the first punch on him, I just knew that I had him in the stand-up, and it was like I kind of went into a flow state. And then I heard him, and then it just went crazy, you know?
Yeah, from the lounge, you know, the best place on earth to be when there's a fight on. You know, I was watching it, like, you rocked him, and I was like, oh, that's it, he's got him in the bag. And, you know, I guess when you rocked him a few times, you must have been like, okay, I've got this in the bag. Did you just feel a sense of ease after that, like, okay, and you went into cruise control?
Well, I wobbled him the first time. I caught him with a check hook when he came in, and his legs wobbled a bit. And then I was like, all right, let's see if you come forward. And he kept coming forward because he wanted to get one back on me. And that's when I countered him with like a short right hook and really wobbled him. And everything just went like in the kill mode, because I'm like, you're one shot from ending this fight right now. That belt's yours. All you've got to do is just go up and take it. And I went up and just started winding up on these massive right hooks or punch. I don't even know what they are. I don't even throw that in the gym or anywhere. It's just an aggressive punch. And I hit him with one, and I went back to throw the exact same punch, which I know not to do. And he just caught me in between. And I went down, and as I tried to put my hand down, my arm gave way, and I flexed over the back of my arm. And then I ate probably 15 little punches getting back up, and went back to the center, and my legs were still wobbling. And I thought, okay, let's see how long it takes for me to feel better at featherweight, because at bantamweight I've been hit and not come good. And off small little hits. This was a big shot, and I came good. My legs came back, and I'm like, wow, I'm ready to go. And then I just started throwing crazy again. But
From a political perspective, a lot of people were talking about that fight. I've spoke to random people who were talking about that fight as well. It was so exciting, especially if you're a fight fan. What kind of, people are coming at you? What kind of promises are getting made to you, after the fight? Are you getting approached by, people wanting to talk to you about, where they could, how they could help you get to the next level and things like that?
I know that, like, Joe and at Freestyle, we're all working on a plan to go to that next level. I think if I won that fight, I would have been in conversation for a UFC contract. Khan, who won the fight, he's calling for the UFC contracts, but I don't think that it's going. That fight's going to go on ESPN, and obviously the UFC matchmakers are going to watch it, and then I think when they watch it, they're going to just see me putting on a show and then him choking me out at the end, and probably won't want any of us, So I think that I need to get back in the win column. I can't just come off a loss and be like, I put on a good fight, give me a UFC contract. I tried that after my fight. I put up the highlights and kind of said, I'm an entertaining fighter. I always look to finish. I'd love a shot on like Dana White Contender Series. At least that they know it's going to be a good fight. But I don't know how to even really get in contact with them.
Yeah. I'm sure you have moments where it feels like an impossible dream. And I've been talking to another friend who's chasing a very difficult dream. I won't go into it. But I just think you have to keep going. It's just you'll know when it's the right time to stop.
You'd know with podcasting, right?
Oh man, I get disheartened all the time. There's so many good podcasts out there now, and everyone's got one. And I often, do question why I do it as well. But I feel like deep down I know that I just have to keep going for now.
100%.
And I think you get the signs when it's time to stop. I really do believe that, something like it'll be an easy decision when it's time to stop. And I actually heard that quote once, like if a decision's really difficult, well, then it's the wrong decision, and I really do believe that. Yeah. Oh, bro. I've got a few other questions for you. I don't want to talk all about fighting. I want to just recap a little bit your lifestyle. For those that might have missed our first episode, you live in a van, dude. Let's talk about van life. I know everyone asks you this question, but is it still a novelty or are you over it?
I don't want to be in a van anymore, man. It's a love-hate thing. Right?
Is it?
I would love to have a house, man. I'm at the point now when I see people walking down the street or like driving their nice cars with their kids going back to their white picket house, and I look at them and I'm like, fuck you, man. Not really, but I'm like, I wish I had that.
How do you feel about a mortgage?
No, I don't like the sound of a mortgage, but I guess it's just the uncertainty of like, where am I gonna? What's my future? What will my future look like? I don't know. You tell me, like, what does it look like for me to pursue this career into my 30s? On living from each fight is I live off the fight purse that I get, so barely anything. I drag it out and make it, make ends meet, and then I arrive at the end and there's nothing. What do I do from there?
You're asking the wrong person, because I'm going to say you just keep going all in. Fuck it. I'm the wrong person because I'm at the other end of it. I mean, I chase the houses, cars, things like that. And I've lost it all, if I'm straight. And I am actually happier than I've ever been. A lot of stress comes with those things. And when I did have them, my first feeling was that I wanted to move overseas. So it's like the grass is always greener, in my opinion. And I just feel like, you're learning these technical skills of fighting, You do it better than most. But the soft skills that you're learning that you can't really measure, those, the skills of like discipline and being regimented and, communicating with media like you're doing right now. Then also your promotion, your personal management, and dealing with a variety of key stakeholders. I mean, these are soft skills that are transferable into anything else you do afterwards. And I believe that you look after your body. I mean, I think you can go to your late 30s or 40s. I mean, what about, who's the guy, Teixeira, what's his first name? Glover Teixeira, he's 43.
Yeah.
Wonderboy's 40. Wonderboy's 40?
Yeah, how crazy.
Yeah, but I think they're products of good living. So I'm coming from a surf background. I'm looking at Kelly Slater. He's 51 and he's still on the world tour. Give me a break. I think the concept of age has changed a lot. People are starting to realise that they can hack their way into longer careers. I think you're doing it.
Yeah, but it's just frustrating when, I watch all the NRL players playing on the weekend, and I'm sure they're all getting a good wage and a good salary, and us MMA fighters put in, so much time. I'd say we're training a lot more than what those guys are, and we're making nothing. It's just the hard thing is the sport's still so new. One day you'll be in my position and you'll be getting paid really good to do what I'm doing, but at the moment it's just if you want to do it, that's on you.
Yes. Do you feel like fighting owes you something?
I feel like fighting's just something that I put everything into that has so much to give, but just isn't willing to let go of it yet.
Yeah.
Nobody owes me anything. Nothing owes me anything. Everything I do is my own choice. It's just the process is frustrating and hard. I'm not going to lie. It is seriously frustrating and hard. And then you're living in a society that has all these expectations of you. And, I care about what Michaela, what her parents would probably think too. What am I doing? To them, what am I doing? But to me, it means everything.
But they love you for the man you are.
Yeah, that's true. And, my parents just want me to keep going. And I just think, you said it's hard and it's difficult and it's so much time, but isn't it beautiful, bro? It is. And you had a guy on the podcast, he was a few episodes after me, I can't remember his name, he was a writer. He was overseas and he actually mentioned me, and he said that guy that's living in his van and pursuing that dream, with his goal to get into the UFC, what he doesn't know is he's living the life right now, and I am. I truly am, but I guess it's just other people's expectations now that we speak about it that it just puts the pressure on me.
And society's expectations, we are constantly told that we need to consume. Mm-hmm. We are, and it doesn't work. It's miserable. I've got a really good friend of mine who lives in California. He's friends with, Hollywood actors. He's a aspiring actor himself. He's with these people who have millions of followers on their social media, and he's giving me this insight into how they really are. I can't mention their names, but miserable.
Yeah.
Money, and also exposure. He's also friends with some famous TikTokers, which I didn't even know was a legit thing. 16-year-olds he knows with millions of followers. Just said miserable beyond words. Stuff medicated for anti-anxiety medication and stuff like that. So I think the magic is in the struggle. I believe that more than ever.
Yeah.
And I think enjoying that struggle and trusting the process is more important than ever.
Yeah.
I think what you, and the reason I'm so drawn to you and I really like you is I just believe that, this path of self-improvement and rigorous self-honesty, that's the success in my opinion, And And I guess it's when you've got all these external influences and comparisons to your brothers and your family and your girlfriend's parents and their concerns, I think ultimately people just want you to be a good person and treat them right, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I'm lecturing you.
I'm learning from you. I'm loving this chat. Yeah, you're 100% right. I think it would just ease it. I think it would just make everything a little bit easy if I knew that I just had like some sort of income coming in, because I want to give this everything, and I don't want to be going back to laying bricks while I'm in the middle of a training camp, you know, and you know what that's doing to me. It's not benefiting me at all.
Yeah.
That's all. And I'm grinding pretty hard, like with all I'm trying to get as many followers as I can on the Instagram, because that converts to people that want to like sign up to my app. But I reckon I've put in weeks just in trying to get that app up onto the Apple store. It's been a nightmare, but it's just little roadblocks, and sometimes you're like, man, this is just the universe. But everything great requires hard work, and it's always met with resistance, and it's like, yeah, it's the relationship with the universe, you know.
I'm laughing because I just love it. I love that you say things like that. You know, again, like you just break down the fucking stereotypes, and these are leaders, bro. I mean, do you cop much judgment or ridicule from your teammates in regards to your openness about psychedelics?
I don't really talk to people about it, to be honest. Like, it is my story, and it is who I am, and I know that it's has to be told, because I do really believe that it is seriously beneficial. And a lot of people kind of they come to me and they're like, wow, you've grown so much, or you've changed so much as a person. It's so good to see the person that you are now. And I can't just sit there and be like, oh yeah, that's all me. I'm like, no, I had to put myself through like absolute hard experiences of taking these things for me to become like this. Like life, I had to be scared of life, and psychedelics would make sure that I was fearing it pretty hard for me to then want to change. It's a tool, it really is. I've also met people that have taken heaps of psychedelics, and I just think that they are just gone down the wrong path in a way that I don't really like the direction that they're, I don't know. I just think that they've used it in the wrong way.
I'm glad you said that. I think that's a real key point. I mean, that's what's coming out of these. The research is that it's all about setting. It's all about, trying to learn from the experience that you have under it, you know, not just forgetting it straight away, you know, making sure it's significant and remembered, and then put into practice.
Yeah, integrating it.
Integrate it. And that's what you've tried to do, correct?
Yeah. Integrating it takes a long time. Like, I usually only do psychedelics like twice a year. And I guess the more that I'm fighting now, it's like, I'm drawn to it each time in camp. It's something that it's like my little ritual that I need to do. It's never been negative for my life, so I always feel that I need to do it. And I feel that when I go through into a fight without it, that I just don't feel right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting.
The one fight that I didn't have it was like the worst performance of my life.
Did you lose that fight?
Yeah, over in Perth. I lost on that Eternal fight against Cody Haddon.
Okay.
And I just had no direction going into that fight at all. Wow. That's what it was. It was just a fight that I just lacked direction in. I lacked an idea of what I was going to do when I got in there, and I lacked direction in a game plan. I lacked direction in my life. I had all these different things going on in the background, while I was going through the worst weight cut in my life, hormones out of balance, like it was just chaos. And it really would have been really good to just sit there and just have the mushrooms say, "This is what you need to do, mate. Just relax." But I didn't have that going into that fight.
Yeah. Do you get external assistance through maybe a psychologist or a counsellor as well?
No.
No, okay.
I don't feel that I have like my life. I don't affect people negatively, I guess. Like there's no real reason for me to go and see a psychologist or anything like that. Obviously, there's like the whole PTSD sort of thing. Honestly, I think that I can kind of keep that under wraps by just using this, but I would always be open to it, to going and doing that for sure. It's not something that I'm against.
Yeah, I think the PTSD thing gets talked about a lot nowadays, which is great that people are discussing it. You know, those experiences we have as a child are so developmental and follow us into our adulthood. That's what's the obvious thing, you know, and which is what you talk about, you know, and then talking about how you've, you know, found an outlet and a way to channel that energy. It's really cool. But, you know, I really am an advocate for, you know, utilising a variety of tools. You know, psychedelics under the right circumstances could be one tool, in conjunction with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, or also with medication. You know, and I guess I personally want to encourage people to seek out as many different tools and find the one that works for you.
Absolutely.
Which is what it sounds like you've done. You know, you found something that seems to be working for you. You know, and I think it's just really cool. And again, I'm really in awe of your openness about it, especially as an elite athlete, where, you know, it could put you under scrutiny. Are you worried about that?
I don't think that it will put me under scrutiny. I know that in MMA, I know it's not illegal to do it. I know it's not against USADA. I know that it's now legal in Australia in a medical perspective. I think that times are changing, you know, and if people want to scrutinise me or label me something that I'm not because I wanted to better myself in my life, well, like, look, I'm off the streets carrying on and drinking and like just taking myself out of negative situations that I used to be in. Like, I'm not that person. And
so not that person.
No, but like, don't say that it was the sport. I don't think that it was necessarily the sport. I think that it was, honestly, it's a shift in perspective, like you're saying, people seeking out counsellor, psychologist, using psychedelic. All it does is it's a shift in a person's perspective. Yeah. Because we go stagnant in the same mindset for too long, we get stuck in holes and ruts. And as long as you can have something shift your perspective and have you start thinking in a different pattern, then you can start to make different changes in your life, and from there you can better yourself. But that happens over time. It's not instant.
Yes. It's like how I remember Nick Diaz got banned for 4 years for smoking weed.
Yeah, that was back to, and now it's legal.
Now it's legal?
Yeah.
And at the time, he paid the ultimate price. Like during the peak of his career, you know, it's heavy. And
Anderson Silva got caught that same fight with steroids, and I think Nick got suspended a lot longer than Anderson Silva.
Yeah, and now it's fully legal in California, you know. Yeah, it's and I guess like then maybe that's sort of the position you're in terms of it. It's like, you know, don't scrutinise me because, you know, you might be coming to me for advice at some stage, right?
If I could go to a psychologist who would give me psychedelics and put me through that, I 100% would, but I don't have access to it. So I have to kind of make these things work myself, and I don't like that. I would rather be like there with a sitter and someone that's trained in that area. But I'm only working with what I've got, you know.
But But you are doing it in a calculated way as well. Like you're making sure you're with the right people in the right setting. Is that right?
Yeah, but I've made mistakes in the past where that wasn't the case.
Have you?
Yeah. I went out to a beach. I was like, all right, I'm going to go out to this beach and I'm going to trip there all day. And it's this tiny little beach out in Jervis Bay. And I get out of the car, eat a high dose of these mushrooms, and I walk around the headland of this tiny little beach, and there's no beach. The tide's fully come in. So I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? So I walk back around to where there is a beach, and it happens to be Hymes Beach, like the most populated beach in Jervis Bay. And I was just like, I should not be here. And I started to just get really worried and paranoid. And I think like a couple of hours might have gone by. It was kind of cold in the morning, but then it had heated up. And I'm wearing this like snow jacket, and I was wearing it, and I started just sweating. And I'm like, man, you can't even tell that you're like hot in this jacket. So I started walking up the beach, and there was people walking dogs, and I was just like, I should not be here. So I ended up like running into the bush, and I was completely crying, man. And as I was running, I was like repeating, like, you've been running for years, and I ran into the bush, and I'm like, what have I been running from? And then I realized I've been running from this person that I truly was, and I was ignorant to who I thought that I was. And it was the scariest trip that I ever had, but it forced me to really take a good look at myself. And I find that one to be the defining moment in the big change that I made as a person. But running around the street, not knowing where I was not a pleasant experience. And I could have jumped in my car and driven. That wouldn't have been good, like you don't think straight when you're doing these sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good message to put out there, Jarrett. Don't wear a ski jacket to the beach.
That's your first mistake.
Or tripping on mushrooms.
Make sure the beach is there.
Oh, man, it's classic. But, I guess the last thing I want to say about the whole psychedelic thing is, from your experience, you said it's intense, it's hard, it cracks you right open. Post-experience, though, you find the most beneficial aspect of it, correct?
Yeah, like wake up the next day and it's like I've been reborn. Like I'm a new me. It's a new
every time.
Yeah, clean slate. Let's start again. Let's start making the right changes now. Let's do it right. Let's let go of everything that's yesterday and beyond. That's what it's like for me. It's like clean slate. Like stop having hard feelings towards yourself about the past. Let's just move on. That's a hard thing to do, But in saying that, with that, I have met people that never have these sorts of experiences. My best mate's like, man, I take mushrooms and it's just the most lovely, blissful, peaceful, like I'm in absolute bliss and serenity. And I'm like, you don't have like hard feelings, like you don't have these internal feelings coming up and you need to address them. It's like, no, I don't have any of that. And I'm like, well, maybe I just have reason. Maybe it's just my past that, maybe if you've had trauma and you take mushrooms, that it's going to be hard.
I think that's what it comes down to. I do know people too that don't have what I have, and alcohol was an interesting one for me because, I could never have one beer. It always had to be 10, and I wasn't drinking for the taste. I was drinking till my legs went numb and I didn't know where the fuck I was, okay? Every time. Whereas I have people and ex-girlfriends who can go and have one glass of wine with dinner and then go, oh, I'm good. Or they get that feeling like they're a little bit tipsy and they're like, oh, no, I don't need anymore. Whereas for me, it's like, oh, hang on, this is doing something. It's numbing me. The pain's going away. Give me more. So, yeah, like...
That's what you put it down to? Like, you really when you look back now, you're like, man, I was just trying to escape something.
Man, this is a heavy thing to say, but I feel that I've carried deep pain for a lot of my life, you know. And it's only now in my older years I feel like it's really subsiding, but it's been really hard, and it's taken a lot of hard work. You know, for me, it wasn't, you know, psychedelics. For me, I got the best outcomes from attending like 12-step recovery programs like AA and going and connecting with like-minded people and identifying and sharing and going, holy fuck, I'm not alone in this, you know. And then and then I realized that alcohol and substances weren't the problem at all. I was the problem, and my mental health was the problem, but that wasn't my fault either. You know, it was like things that were out of my control as a child, teenager, but then even in my older years, you know, I had to deal with the passing of my father last year, you know. So, like you said, the shit's going to keep coming. We have to develop tools, you know. So,
could you relate that same experience when you're saying you went and, you know, you got the help? Could you relate that to my experience of psychedelics, that like that's a hard thing to do and an uncomfortable thing, but what you gain from it's beneficial?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because, and like you've said numerous times, I had to shed the ego.
Yeah.
You know, and I was ashamed, like, for years. You know, like I've been going to AA meetings. I was embarrassed. And then the healthier I got, the more I don't give a fuck. You know, I'll tell everyone about it. I'm broadcasting it right now, you know, because it was something that worked for me, you know. And now I feel like I'm, you know, maybe onto another chapter and I want to find more tools. But for me personally, the biggest tool that works the best is when I try to help others or be of service to others. So it gets me out of myself, you know. And I can see it in you, I think we're very similar in a lot of ways. We carry this sensitivity, you know, that was born from being, you know, hurt as young people, and then we can identify that pain very easily in other people, and then we get drawn to it because we want to heal the pain in others, because we indirectly are trying to probably heal the pain in ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that's just an analysis of maybe that's what you try to do when you're helping your family or your other people friends that are in pain. You know, it's because it's almost trying to heal yourself.
Yeah, well, maybe because we know what it's like to feel that way, and when we don't want other people to feel that way too, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's beautiful, and I think so many people are suffering in silence. You know, this isn't new information. You know, you just look at the global statistics on mental health. I know it's being recorded more and more, but, you know, people are suffering in silence, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I feel it's my duty to speak up about these things too, because, you know, it's the whole, like, it ain't weak to speak. You know, there's a lot of men out there that don't want to admit weakness. But, like, I'm a person that will walk in and bite people in cage 4 times a year. But, like, I'll admit that I've been the weakest human ever, and that's fine. Like, you can't get stronger unless you realise the weak points. It's like anything. Like, you can't fix a weak building unless you realise where it's going to crumble and where it's weak. You can't be ignorant to those sorts of facts. And I think it's my duty to speak about this because, you know, what I do carries that stigma for a masculine person. But I don't think I am a masculine person at all. I think I'm actually more of a feminine sort of person. Like, Michaela's a more masculine person in our own way. When you understand, like, energy, you guys talked about that on the podcast, didn't you?
Yeah, I know her and Chelsea were like, we feel like we're dudes, you know?
Yeah, they're masculine. Yeah,
I guess
in their own way, like, they're doers. They make things happen. I'm more of a thinker. I'm more of like a creative person, and I kind of sit with my feelings and I worry about other people's feelings. And, you know, even Chelsea and Michaela, like, we don't have time for that. We just need to get done what needs to be done.
Yeah,
and that's a good way to be in a way, but there's a balance.
And you need the balance, obviously. That's why you and her work so well as a team, you know.
That's how people attract. Like when you read, do you remember that book, like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? That was all about that. It was like, you could have a very masculine person and they would be attracted to a very feminine person. Or you could have two people that are kind of like a balance in the middle that would be attractive to each other, but you're going to be attracted to the opposite of yourself.
Yes, you are.
Like we even see it, like when you look at like gay or lesbian relationships, there's always a real masculine and a real feminine sort of person, because that's the attraction between each other, the energy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the yin and the yang.
Yeah,
you know, it really is how the universe has been formed. Like everything has its, you know, antagonist, its opposite, and yeah, it's just like, I think we've got to go with that a lot more for sure.
That's something that I'm really into, is Hermeticism.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, well, it's like what you're saying. There's like Hermetic principles or laws. Like it comes from like Hermes, who was like an Egyptian, I'm not sure what you would even call it, like almost like a Jesus kind of person.
Like a prophet.
Like a prophet, and there was Hermetic laws. I think there's 7 Hermetic laws, but like one of them's polarity, which is like there's opposites. Another one's like balance, meaning like you have to find a balance. There's another one that's like rhythm, which can mean like life's all ups and downs and like waves. So like you'll go through a hard time and then it'll level out, and then another hard time and then it will level out. And if you ride the highs and you ride the lows, you're always having a hard time and then a really good time and a hard time. But if you understand that law, you can kind of find a way to balance yourself in between the two and don't get too carried away when things are good or when things are bad. And yeah, then you don't ride the wave. You kind of just duck dive in the waves and not letting them knock you around. But another one's like the law of vibration, like everything's vibration. So they're saying all these principles back thousands of years ago that quantum scientists are now telling us to be true. So I really pay attention to these principles because I'm like, wow, they actually are like legit. And the more that you look into them, I just listen and read about the principles over and over again, and then I just tend to integrate it into my life somehow. And I feel through doing that, I've been able to just flatline my life rather than go up and down and get caught up in the...
Like keep it more even.
Yeah, keep it more even. Yeah.
Interesting. It's funny when people talk about vibrations, and because I really believe in, you know, things vibrate, people vibrate. You know, I feel sometimes I feel like I feel someone's energy.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, that's some woo-woo fucking bullshit. And I'm like even right now, the only reason we can communicate, you know, online is because of vibrations. You know, they're everywhere around it.
Yeah.
And they're utilised, you know, in various forms. So I think these things that you're discussing, you know, this is conscious living, it's conscious thinking. I think many people are living unconsciously and it's leading to misery. But do you have a morning routine that you adhere to? Tell us about it.
I have this idea of a morning routine in my head that I'm like, when I hit this morning routine, my life's going to be like up here, and the resistance, just, I haven't been able to battle the resistance. Like I wake up, because I train so hard, I wake up and I never want to get out of bed. So I'm always like, one more hour, you know?
Yeah.
But I know that if I do all these things, that my life would be a lot better. Like I'll admit it, there's things that I need to do that I'm not doing, and I'm hoping that maybe through this camp that I can really get that routine, because it's so important.
Yeah, it is. It does help, but I'm with you. Like, it's taken me many years to find out what works. Like, for years, I used to drag my ass out of bed so early. It often would be to go surfing, regardless of the conditions. But then I'd get up and I'd do my Wim Hof breathing or stretching, and you know, in hindsight, like I've realised I'm not really a morning person. Like my mornings need to be slow, and I'm delicate in the morning.
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit emotional. I can't talk. I feel like I've got this monkey on my back, and then I need to slowly ease into the day, and it just lifts, and I'm okay, you know.
Yeah, I don't think Michaela talks to me for the first hour that I'm awake. She's a morning person. She'll go off for a walk, and I'll kind of sit there and just drink coffee and then kind of come to.
Yeah,
but
and that's okay.
Yeah, I'm a night person.
Yeah,
I don't stay up late, but I wish I could. I like it when I do.
Like, you train, what, twice a day, 6 days a week?
Yeah, sometimes 3, sometimes 4.
So
like
that's...
I do my own training outside of classes as well.
Oh, man. Living it, breathing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't mind me asking, though, like, if we can go back to finances a little bit, without prying too much. Obviously, you have your fight analysis app, which is epic, and it's, like I said, you gained like 40,000 followers in 2 years or something, was it, or less, 6 months?
I probably gained all my followers now in like a year and a half. Yeah, probably a bit over a year now.
So you must be doing something right, like it was successful. And I'm sure that probably brings in some income, but, you know, generally, are you really living from fight purse to fight purse?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fight purse, or if it wasn't for any of the factors that bring in like a little bit of cash, I would have to go back to work. I'd get to the end of camp and my money's gone. Like, I look in the bank and it's like so close to having nothing in there, and I'm like, oh my God, like, it's scary. And then you get paid for a fight and you're like, yes, I made it, you know, like, I got there.
Yeah. I mean, the HEXS promotion must love you after that last fight. Seriously, they must fucking love you.
Yeah, they wanted me back on there.
Were you able to haggle a bit more money out of them this time around?
Oh, I did a little bit.
Okay.
It's just fight purse. It's nothing against any, like, what people are offering, but there's just no money in it for any fighters in this country. I just really don't think that the purses are anything, really. Maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's just the way it is, you know. I guess if you start paying more, you've got to start paying everyone more, and then prices go up, and, you know.
Yeah. You wouldn't consider, like, Bellator or anything like that?
I really want to be in the UFC because I feel that I can make really good money there. I would always go and fight over in a international fight league for sure. Yeah. I just don't want to do anything that's going to hinder my way of getting into the UFC. That kind of seems to happen sometimes. You know, you go to Bellator and then UFC, you're like, oh, you've picked a side, or I don't know how it works, but yeah.
Or you get stuck in a contract and you miss an opportunity and things like that.
Yeah, but I think, you know, a few more fights and I will go overseas.
Yes. Yeah, man. Far out. So interesting, dude. I find conversations with you different, you know, and I love it. I guess, you know, it's like sort of late and I don't want to keep you up because you've probably been training and you need your rest. But
no, man, I'm here for the whole, bro. I'm loving having a conversation with you. It's been a while, you know.
I know, dude. I love it. Yeah. Well, look, I don't want to talk all about fighting, but just give me your take on UFC 286. You know, were you glad to see Leon Edwards get up?
Yeah, I am, and I predicted him to win that fight, and which I thought was pretty cool because he was such an underdog, you know, to be in that fight. But I did a breakdown of their previous fight, and then I talked about like the adjustments that each guy had to make. Yeah, and it was really cool to then watch the fight on the weekend and then see the adjustments that those guys made. And I think it was just a very good game plan, the way that Leon won that fight. Obviously, cardio played a factor. Last time he was fighting above like high altitude at Salt Lake City, and a lot of the fighters on that card gassed out. So I think he was a lot fitter this time, and you know he really did a good job of like stopping Usman's takedowns. Like Usman will either throw the right hand, step through and shoot, or he'll throw a combination, wait for Leon to throw back so he can shoot. And Leon was timing this with the knee. So as soon as he'd seen Usman's right hand come, he'd throw that knee and catch him, or he'd wait till Leon would throw back at Usman, and then Usman was ready to shoot and Leon would throw that knee. And it was just like beautiful to watch.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, he definitely had it more sus. There was a lot of talk about the altitude in their last fight in Utah, but I don't know. I was, for me personally, I was actually more excited about the Gaethje fight.
That was a hell of a fight.
Oh wow! You know that. I always mess up his last name. Rafael
Fiziev.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's definitely someone to watch out for. He's hungry, he looks strong, he's fast, but I just feel like he got outclassed by Justin, didn't he?
Yeah, he kind of, that third round got away from him. You know what's funny, though? It's like when Justin tried to engage in the technical fight and be, like, real calculated, it started going downhill for him. And then when he went back to, like, throwing big bombs and, like, what I did wrong in my fight, it, like, worked for him and he, like, won that round.
But that's you. And, you know, I wanted to say this to you at the start, but I held back. You know, from my perspective, and don't take my opinion worth a grain of salt, it's worth jack shit. I just wanted to say to you after that fight, don't change a fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, I just felt like I was watching your whole personality fight.
Yeah.
You know, and I loved it. And as a fan, I was like, I want to watch it. And I actually didn't give a fuck that you got choked out and lost. I mean, I was disappointed, but I was like, fuck. To me, you still won the fight, you know, and I just, like, I don't know, like, I know you've got to be smarter and more calculated, but it just went how it went, and it was brilliant. I just like saying, don't change. I think if you went to the UFC and did what you did, okay, maybe that guy got lucky this time, but you go to the UFC, everyone's going to be on weight, it's going to be much more regulated, and, you know, maybe you would have been able to wriggle out of that, you know, that sort of weird side control thing he got you in the gift wrap, which is actually, on another note, I got fucking gift wrap for the first time at jiu-jitsu the other night. It's fucked.
What do you think of me when it happened?
Yeah, sort of. But, you know the first thing I do, though, when I get into those positions, I put my fingers up around my neck. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure he can't get his elbow under his fucking forearm under my neck. That's the first thing I do now. I'm like this.
Yeah. Watch that show.
Yeah.
So, you're right, though, like, and that's why my first coach gave me the fight name. He called me the Wild Man. And for years, I've been trying to get away from that name. I don't want to be a wild man. But then every time I fight, it's like, there it is again.
Mate, it's the best expression of personality. You know, I see it with surfers, skateboarders. You know, their personality just emanates through what they're doing. And that's why everyone loves watching you, man. And that's why everyone was talking about you after that fight. I'm sorry, they were.
Thanks,
so it's like, I just feel like from a complete nobody's perspective, I'm like, don't fucking change, dude. Get choked out, you know, but do what you did. You know?
I'll never lose that part of me.
Yeah, but he clipped you that first time when he knocked you down because you were just throwing and rushing in. You were just like, you had blood on you could smell the blood.
It was literally the same as when Cody Garbrandt got knocked out by Dillashaw. You know how he kept loading up on that right hand? It was like right hand, right hand, right hand, and then TJ caught him. Yeah, it was like that.
It's exactly right. It's like you might as well punch yourself in the face, dude.
Yeah. Gave him that. Gave him that.
You put your head in front of his fist. His fist didn't find you.
I headbutted his fist, then I went down.
You did, you know. But I mean, he had a fucking granite jaw, dude. I you know, full respect to that. Jesus, and tough to not give in like that. Like a lot of men would have given up after the shots that he took.
Yeah,
and he didn't. So fucking full respect to him.
Yeah, respect to him. Good on him. I hope he does get to where he wants to go. But something tells me that we'll still be competing for who gets there first.
Yeah, is there talk of a rematch?
Well, I don't know. I think, do I deserve a rematch after that performance?
Come on, man. Come
was
on.
asking you. I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the first thing the commentators said, and I'm pretty sure they said it straight after the fight. There was straight away. There's got to be a rematch, you know.
But I do bring a lot of aggression into my fights, and that's the thing. Like, I feel that anyone that I've fought in the past, I feel I would give any of them a rematch. But then when I look back at my fights in the past, I don't think that any of my past opponents would want to give me a rematch. Because it's not a fun time when you're in there with me. Because I'm not just looking to point fight and win the fight. I'm trying to take the fight to them.
Like the way you came out in the first round, my first concern was fuck, he's going to gas out. You're going to, you know. But then then you didn't gas out. I'm like, holy fuck, who is this guy? You know.
No, we don't gas out at freestyle.
You don't. I've done those lactic sessions. You know, they're brutal.
Yeah. I knew that I could just push the pace. I'm like, if I'm tired, he's feeling 10 times worse than me.
Yeah, true.
That's how I just think of it. We just really do prepare a lot different from other gyms.
I think so. If you had to pick someone in the UFC top 10 because you'd fight in featherweight, correct, or bantamweight? Featherweight. I mean, some in the top 10, who would you stylistically like to be matched up against with the current lineup?
Max Holloway would be a good fight.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, I reckon that would be a good fight.
Bless.
Yeah. The guy that I'm fighting now I'm excited for it. I think it's a really good fight. I haven't, because he's so similar to me. He does a lot of things that I do. And I'm like, wow, we're a very similar fighter. And I'm like, that kind of makes an interesting sort of matchup.
Yeah.
They gave me other names too that I think are easier fights, but it's so weird. I can't sit and take easy fights. If they give me a name and I start looking at the fights, I'm like, no, I don't know. And then they'll send me through some guy that's exciting. I'm like, yeah, that's the fight I want. So kind of I'm working against myself in a way, because sometimes they give me the fight that would be easier, but I still want the harder fight, even though I'm trying to get to where I'm going to be. Yeah. I think it just makes it more enjoyable.
Is that how it works? That they'll send you through a name and you're like, okay, I'll get back to you in a few days, and you'll go and watch their tapes and stuff, and then
they just send through a couple of names and I just say, yeah, I'll get back to you. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Go and talk to the team about it and just make up our mind from there, really. I said yes. When they sent the names through, I said yes to all of them.
Yeah.
But, I was going to kind of leave it down to my coaches and also what kind of the direction that I was steering on it too.
Yeah. Hey, what's the vibe around freestyle with the announcement of Alex fighting Yair Rodriguez?
Did they announce it?
Yeah, that was was it officially? I'm pretty sure it's been.
I've seen posters come up with it all the time. And you know what? It's like, I don't ask Alex sometimes because it's probably inside information, and I didn't want to put him in a uncomfortable position. Be like, so are you going to fight this guy next? And but yeah, I'd say that we'll be the next fight, and I'm stoked for that matchup because I can throw all my crazy spinning stuff and try to emulate him, and I'll get better as a fighter because I'll be trying to fight exactly the same as So.
Well, you'll be the best. You'll be the best training partner for Alex, I reckon, in regards to that. Long, technical.
Yeah, I'm the same build, same height, same everything. I think
you and Yair Rodriguez would be a sick.
Yeah.
I like him. I really like him.
Yeah, he's grown on me. I didn't like him remember when he chucked a hissy fit when he poked Jeremy Stevens in the eye. And it was the fight ended, and people were trying to go. He's like, "Don't touch me!" He was just losing it, and I was like, "Bro, calm down!" And then now he's grown on me a bit. I like him. I like him as a fighter, and he showed some heart. That fight with Max Holloway,
Yes,
That was a war.
Sure. It was a war. I had. I'm friends with Yaya Rodriguez, dietitian, Ian Larios, who's been on the podcast, and was in the fight camp for Yaya's last fight against Josh Emmett. Ian just speaks so highly of Yaya and his whole family and how loving and kind and friendly they were, and they called him up after he was the dietitian for Jamal Hill, so he was in the Jamal Hill fight camp, and then got called straight up to Yaya's fight camp on a few weeks' notice, and they really took care of him, for taking it on a short notice dietitian, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
So after he sort of said what he's like behind the scenes, I was like, oh, cool, man. I like that.
It's good to hear, hey.
But it's going to be good to watch Alex pick him apart,
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. The styles they're both very different styles, very different.
They are.
And that's what I love about our gym and the way that they problem solve. To be like, all right, this is the next guy. These are the things we need to work on. It's very interesting to see how Alex adapts and grows, and even how much he improves. Like that last camp against Islam, like Alex's wrestling and grappling, and like no one will ever take Alex down or hold Alex down ever. Like that's never going to happen. Like that camp, it's crazy to see somebody grow. Like most fighters get to the top, and kind of like Holloway. Holloway's kind of been fighting the same way as he's always been for the last. Like when do we ever see him come out and do like, whoa, Holloway 2.0, or he's done something different? He's kind of always been that guy. But Alex is always improving and growing and leveling up, and that's a mentality of him saying, I'm never good enough, I can always be better.
Like Alex is just going to study the absolute shit out of Rodriguez if he has to fight him. And I mean, technically he's going to give him I think a lot of challenges to overcome, but with his mentality that he will rise to those challenges and now not only become one of the best wrestlers in the game, but also he'll become one of the most technical kickers and elbowers in the game as well.
Yeah, well, you've seen Alex blast leg kicks. Like he's probably got the best leg kicks in the whole division, maybe even the UFC.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Alex understands the kicking game. So
what's it like to spar with Alex? Like on a Have you? I mean, you spar with him at a more of a higher pace, yeah.
Yeah.
And he starts putting the heat on.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you notice? Once you're face to face with him, his reflexes.
Oh, his reaction, his timing, his speed. It's a lot of things, but it's mostly his eye. He's got a really good eye. So he kind of puts himself in a position where you can throw three things and he knows you're about to throw one of three, and he's got to counter for all of them at the same time.
Oh, wow.
But it's always good to see, you go through rounds with him where you might have, a bit of success, It's like you've never beaten him in rounds, but you're just having a bit of success in a certain area. Yeah. And then you go back 1 minute between rounds and the next round's just completely different. He's just analysed it and come out and just adapted, and that one thing that you might have been landing's just never going to land again.
Right, okay.
So he's very hard to try to go back and IQ wise, it's very hard to battle against him in the IQ perspective because he's just so switched on. So you'll kind of even say to him, what do I need to do? And he'll just turn and go, you need to do this, 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 and this. He'll tell you how to beat him. He'll tell you, and then you got to try and do it. But then he's one step ahead again.
How much of that do you think is trained, and how much is it just kind of gift?
I think he's really gifted in the way that he thinks. I think he's really, really, really smart guy, very smart. The way that he understands it, if he's explaining, I think that's why I really like listening to him and learning from him, and I think he really likes giving me everything that he can, because he can tell that I'm really like in awe of what he's saying, because I like philosophy and I like martial arts, and the way that he describes everything's like a complete philosophy.
Yeah.
He's not just showing you a move, he's like telling you, like he's letting you know in a way that's like, you can take this same thing that I'm teaching you now and you can apply it to everything.
Gotcha.
Concepts. He's teaching you concepts, you know, not just moves. So I'm just there, just trying to think about what he said, and then I go home, and then I'm just thinking about what he's telling me, you know. It's like he's become such a huge part of my life, because I'm always thinking about what he said to me and what he's doing, and I'm always watching how he's training in the gym, and I'm watching how his weights, the balance between his legs and everything that he does, and then I'm going home and I'm trying to implement it into my own game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to become him in a way.
Yes, dude. Man, well, let's shave your head first, grow a beard, let's go, and you can look like me as well.
That's the only reason I lost, man. It's just the hair.
No way, dude. The hair's rad. I like it when you get those fight cornrows. That's what you do, right? The fight cornrows.
Yeah, I got to keep it out of my eyes.
I know, that looks sick, but it's something scary about whenever I see cornrows, whether it's on a female fighter or a male fighter, there's something ominous about it. It's like, oh, fuck. That guy's going to fuck me up because he's got cornrows. I don't know why I think that.
If you've gone to that much effort to do your hair, how much effort are you going to put into this fight? You know, I've spent a big percentage of my paycheck on these cornrows.
What? Michaela doesn't know how to do cornrows?
No, she's done them before. She did them for my Wollongong Wars fight. It's just good to get like a professional to do them, because they're so tight and like no strands of hair will come out.
Yeah, she's too masculine to do cornrows.
Yeah, just maybe I'll learn to do cornrows and do it myself.
That's so good, dude. Yeah, it's like Alex is teaching you to be like how to play chess, you know, and that's what it is. It seems.
It's chess, yeah.
It's chess.
It's chess.
Are you going to fight?
Adesanya, he says most people. He says we're playing chess. Most people are playing checkers. It's true.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. It's true. I mean, that guy's such an intelligent fighter as well.
I actually reached out to him after my last fight, to Izzy, and messaged him, and I just said, because I'm in such awe of how he tagged somebody and they like wobble, and he doesn't even just change the way he fights. He just is like, goes back. He's like, I'll get him again, you know. And I just messaged him. I'm like, how do you like do that? Like, how do we not get carried away in the moment and get caught up in it and carry on like I did? And he actually said he watched the fight live. Which was cool. He said he put it on his Snapchat story too.
Okay, dude.
And he just, he explained to me, he's like, if you've touched them once and wobbled them, that means you can just do it again, you know? You don't need to be winding up on these big shots. You know that you just got to pop him. Like, keep touching him, and eventually he'll fall. And just hearing it come, like he sent it to me in a voice message, just hearing him say that, I was just like, you're a killer, man. Like, the confidence you have in your abilities and just him as a person, like, him as a person is just the most confident, like, charismatic sort of guy, and you see it when he fights, right? Like you're saying, I've said that to Michaela, I can watch somebody fight and I'm like, I know who they are as a person just from watching them fight. Yeah. And he's just got that, like, aura about him, and when he just touch him and they fall. So I'll implement that into my game.
Yeah, and I guess, like, when you combine that with experience that he's got as well, so, like, I mean, he's had countless Muay Thai fights as well, and, you know, he's just maybe just further down that learning journey than you are. That's maybe the only difference.
It's crazy because he hasn't even been doing MMA for that long.
Yeah, right.
Like, he really hasn't been doing I don't know how long he's been doing MMA. Probably wouldn't be much it would be a few years longer than me, but I've only been doing it for 6 years. Like, he's probably only been doing it for like 7 or 8 years, and he's a world champion. He had the fastest run to the title, didn't he?
Yeah, did he? Yeah.
I think, Pereira, I think he kind of overtook him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think Adesanya will get that one back.
I think so, for sure. I think that he's just got to stay away from that Alex Pereira. I mean, that's the hook that got him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a hook in a combination, but like Adesanya moves so well laterally, and he didn't move laterally in that fight, and I was really confused because I'm like, why isn't he doing what he normally does? But I think he copped the leg kick to that peroneal nerve, and his leg wasn't like working properly, so he couldn't move laterally because he would have started to stumble and fall. So he had to literally stand and fight, you know, that monster in the pocket at his own game, and still was beating him right up to the point where he got finished. Yeah,
okay, there you go. It's interesting. But that thing you were talking about that Izzy said to you about just keep touching him and stay disciplined in that. I mean, Alex does that too. I mean, he really did that to Max Holloway in Max Holloway 3 fight. Yeah. You know, like he just kept chipping and just stuck to the game plan. I thought that was one of the most measured, disciplined performances ever in the UFC. The way he picked Max Holloway apart, you know,
incredible.
You know, and he had him bleeding all over the place. Still just controlled himself, pick, and just completely, you know, destroyed him in the end. You know, it was insane. So.
And just because they've fought so many times, to just see how Alex just would level up each time.
Crazy, hey? Yeah, he got better. It is a wild sport. You know, it's funny. I tried to watch a boxing match the other day. I'm not talking about the Tim Suvite. I was just watching it on the UFC Fight Pass. It was like Jose Aldo was actually having a boxing match. And I just can't watch boxing anymore, man. I only watch MMA. It's so funny.
Neither can I.
You're the same?
We tuned in to watch the only boxing match I watched was the bloody, what's his name, Logan Paul.
How was it?
Oh no, it was like, it was not that great, but you're just watching the names, you know, and all the back and forth that's been going on. You just want to see how he fights. So
I didn't watch it, but I heard it was a spectacle.
Yeah, you know, like, the sport is I think boxing's a sport, like a lot more of a sport, and I think that MMA is a lot more of a fight.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think there's so many layers to it, and then for a lot of casual fans, you know, you hear them say, "Oh, I hate it when fights go to the ground and they're wrestling," but I think as you go on now, like when a fight goes to the ground, I'm more interested.
Yeah, so am I. But you know, you can't listen to any of those people. I hear it all, right? Or in the comment section, I posted the breakdown or like highlights of Gaethje and Fiziev, and lots of comments on there were like boring fight.
Really?
Because people weren't getting knocked down and like brain damage. They weren't interested in a fight. They want to see people purely getting hurt. Like, I think they're the kind of people that just sit on YouTube watching like street fights, or they're the type of people that watch Power Slap. Don't
get me started on Power Slap. Yeah, but again, I'm going to say it. Like, I think there's this underlying. We have this. We have this underlying a need for violence. It's bizarre. Like, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it's in our nature.
You think it's violence, or do you think it's just some sort of pent up energy that is aggressive?
I think they want the excitement, and I just think it taps into, you know, like, our societies have been doing it forever. You go back to the Roman era, and they had the gladiator pit and gladiators, like fighting to the death. I think at the end of the day, it's a really primal urge that we have, just like the primal urge to eat, the primal urge to find shelter, the primal urge to procreate. I think it's
to kill, right? To kill, because we wouldn't eat if we didn't kill. And that's the funny thing. I talk to people that are like, I see people where you go to squash a bug and they're like, don't kill that. And I'm like, you eat chicken. But it's like these animals are going through abattoirs, but we're so disconnected from it that we don't realise that the violent side of it. It's probably like, it'd be better for us to go kill that chicken ourselves.
Exactly, dude. I've had these debates with people before. If you eat meat, I almost think you have a responsibility to kill an animal one day and eat it. Out of respect for the animal, Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I don't know. I just think like we have a primal urge to hunt, and I think this is what these sports are satisfying for a lot of people in a controlled way. I mean, let's face it, our society is probably the safest and most humane it's ever been in the history of the world. Like you go back to generations, like my grandparents' generations, like my grandmother, my grandfather, both my grandfathers fought in the world wars and watched people die, and were told to go and kill men. We haven't been asked to do any of those things. We're very sanitized and safe where we are now. So.
I think what's scaring me is the lack of discipline in some of these younger kids coming up. Like, you probably can't speak about it much, but you're a school teacher, but do you see aggression in some of these kids? Like, do you see a change in school from when you were there to now?
Mate, I see a change in school from when I started teaching to now.
Really?
And definitely since growing up, going to Narra High. I mean, that place was violent, dude. I thought it was normal until I left. I was like, shit, man, that was violent. But the biggest thing I'm seeing with young people more than ever is anxiety levels are through the roof. I work at the moment in a well-being space. We have like what they call a well-being hub, where students that are not feeling great or not coping can have a time out and just sit and hang out, and I talk to them, and I actually love it. But the biggest thing is their anxiety levels are through the roof. And I just feel like anxiety is very much linked to suppression of emotions. It's very much linked to feelings of lack, like there's something missing in their life. And, and I see a lot of medicated students now. I never seen that when I first started, They come in, they have to take their medication on time, and these things have side effects for them, and then they're battling, prescription medication addiction for a lot of their life. It sets them on a path. Not to say that I really don't want to discredit the use of it, because I do respect its use and its need, but it's just an overall pattern that has become more predominant over the years, I'd say.
I think, like with social media too, it's like you're comparing yourself to others all the time. You can't not compare yourself to others. And how does a 12-year-old kid navigate through that sort of world?
Hey, look, that's a question I've got for you. I mean, you've got like 50 or 60,000 followers on Instagram, for example. I mean, does that become a managing, you probably get reached out to a lot, and DMs and comments. How do you manage that?
I haven't really been reached out to by anyone for like sponsorship or anything like that. I'm kind of really shocked because I reach like 8 million people a month on there, and somebody could tie their brand to my Instagram, to my posts, and 8 million people are going to see it. And how much would somebody pay for 8 million people to view their product or view their brand? I just don't really hear from anyone. I get a lot of people reaching out. They're always saying, "Oh, you get 1 million ones a day." People like, promote your Instagram, boost your Instagram. I'm like, it's doing fine. But yeah, I really don't get anyone really reaching out for that sort of thing. It's really strange.
What about just to talk to you or maybe criticize your content? Do you get
that every day, all the time.
Okay. How do you manage it?
It doesn't really bother me. I don't really play into it a lot of the time. Sometimes I see people act so silly on there that I just give them a little bit of something to roll them up, and then I'm like, yeah, that's enough. Or I'll message people personally, actually, that are really horrible, and I'll say, like, genuinely, I'm like, hey, how you doing? I just seen that you message on my comment section, and I just thought I'd reach out and see how you're doing, because I don't think if we were in person we wouldn't get along, and I don't have anything against you. And I said, I know, like, the world we're in at the moment is not really nice, and sometimes we express the way that we feel to get it off our chest. So if you ever need to talk to somebody, I'm here. And when I say that, probably 90% of the time, the person actually says to me, "Oh, I really actually appreciate you saying that, and I actually feel stupid for being that way. I'm going to go delete my comment." And then I keep in contact with some of these people. I get back to everyone on there. That's one thing I always do, is that get back to all the messages that people send me. It might take me a while, but I make sure that I get back to them.
You're smart. Fuck, you're smart.
Oh, well, I think they are just expressing the way that they feel. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Some people are on there just trolling.
Yes.
And they're just having a good time. They're the ones that you stir up. But like, some people you can see genuinely, like, have a lot of hate in their language, and no one's probably reached out to them. So
exactly, and that's exactly what it is. But then again, too, like, they're looking, like, that's, I see a negative comment as a form of violence. So they're looking for a violent outlet, dude,
That's exactly
I don't know. You should write to them and say, listen, let's meet up somewhere. I'm going to fuck you up, man.
Oh man, plenty of that goes on in the comment section.
You don't say that. Yeah, I know, you're too professional to say that. But, like, I often think that, like, it must be really good for self-confidence to know that you can really handle yourself. I think that's what a lot of men desire. Do you ever think of that? Like, hey, I can handle myself?
Yeah.
In public situations, social situations?
I still stress out, about being in public situations. Like, we talked about that last time. Like, I don't go into town or anything like that. So I'm worried about what's going to happen.
You still get that?
Still get it, man. I don't.
Man.
There's a very uneasy feeling about going into town in Nowra.
No way, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Could you see yourself settling in Nowra long term, or do you think when this is all said and done, you won't go back?
I'd like somewhere that, within reach of Nowra, but like a nice place in, like, Gerringong, or a nice place in Kiama or something like that. Somewhere close that's nice.
South Coast.
Yeah, I'd like that, but that's actually something that I was just going to say, what we just talked about previously about people hating online. When I lost my first fight, so I was 5-0, I think, at that point, and then I lost my first fight. I had, like, all these messages in my inbox because I didn't change my record on my bio to 5-1, and I had all these people reminding me to change my record. Like, it hadn't even been 24 hours, and they were like, "Hey, change your record, you're not undefeated." Like, they all were waiting to see the result of my fight, and when they seen that I'd lost, they, like, took that opportunity to be like, "You lost, change your record."
Dude, you know what that is. You know what that is?
Yeah, it's hate only comes from below. I know that.
Oh, good one. I was going to say it's tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah, tall poppy syndrome.
Cut you down.
And then when I won my next fight, not a single person messaged me to say, "Hey, you changed your record to 6-1."
Isn't it funny? It's funny. Ian Larios. He's been working in the UFC space for years, and he was Daniel DC's fight dietitian and trainer. He's actually trying to get the Trainer of the Year award in the UFC. It's really, you'd love him. But he was talking about, I've had some success as a trainer, training with, as a trainer for Jamal Hill and Yair Rodriguez recently, and he was also in the fight camp for a bunch of people. And he goes, it's really interesting. He goes, I've been to a lot of fight after parties, the winning after parties. He goes, but it's interesting, when you're in the losing team and those after parties are different. Not a lot of people show up to those. You get forgotten real quick. And I was like, wow, it's just a brutal sport sometimes by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I've been pretty blessed. I have good group of people that support me. So when I lost, my first fight, I had more people message me than when I won.
Really?
Yeah, which is very unusual. But a lot of people keep your chin up, keep going. It's just a small bump in the road,
Yeah. But it's because you're a good person, Jarrett. People, that's what I mean. I think that's your true success already, We keep talking about this goal of a UFC contract, but I already feel like you've succeeded in a lot of ways because you're a good human, and that. Thank you. And that speaks to people. That's why you've got so many supporters, and and they're there for you for the losses. So.
Also, you, bro. That's how you've created something so big, like Terrible Happy Talks, and just look at the result of it, man. Only a good person could create something so good.
Well, thanks, man. But like you, it's a very different journey. But I carry so much self-doubt, and really lack a lot of confidence with it, and question why I'm doing it all the time. I mean, you probably have that all as well,
Well, that's that thing I was talking about. That's the resistance. If anyone that's doing something good is always going to be met with some sort of equal force that's telling them that they're not doing good. It's like the polarity, the opposites, It's like those laws. There's always going to be something that drags you down. And I truly believe that. Something good will happen, and there will be a reason as to why it's so hard. My app is going to be so great, but then there's this hurdle in the road, which is getting it on the store. It's just the hugest battle, to war that I'm at with. Yeah, they just make you jump through hoops. But I'm obviously it's going to pay off because that's why it's so hard.
Yeah, not anyone can just get on there, and then that's what's going to give it the value.
Yeah.
Can you just sort of give us a bit of and tell everyone what the app's about, how it functions? Just give us a rundown of it.
Yeah, it's just a app that functions. You can go on and search by specific fighters, and you can search by specific techniques themselves, and in that you'll click on tutorials. And then it just is over 100 tutorials explaining martial arts techniques, and all these techniques are used by UFC fighters. So it's not that I'm teaching people what I do, but I'm teaching people what the best guys in the world are doing.
Yes, gotcha. Nice, man. So when it's up, people can access it through the Apple Store, which I'm sure you'll have links to in all your platforms.
Yeah, it's all on my bio. The Android one's up, but yeah, Apple's just they make things hard.
Oh, dude, don't get me started. Yeah, that's why for the space I'm in, that's why I promote Spotify a lot more.
Yeah,
I find Spotify just easier in a lot of ways. It's easier to reshare. I think it presents better, in the app and stuff like that too. So
yeah, it's the best.
And you've also got a new YouTube channel with the fight analysis on it.
Oh yeah. I've gone out on YouTube now, so I can explain things a bit longer and more in depth. So yeah, just helping out people that are coming up in mixed martial arts, or just people that are interested in understanding the sport a lot better. So just dig into some deeper techniques, and I'll just keep releasing short 5-minute videos on there and just see where it goes.
Yes, brother. Well, listen, man, it's been epic, and I'm just really enjoying documenting your journey, not just professionally, but also personally. So, I want to, keep doing this over the years, man. So, do a bunch of these. And
thank you, man. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. And I'm able to go back and look at my life when I listen to these things. So I just want to explain where I'm at and just be myself, and just hope that people can kind of take my story and learn a bit from that, and maybe not have to go through some of the things that I've gone through.
Man, awesome. Awesome. And I know that you're someone that if people do reach out, if they're in need and they want to connect with you and maybe relate their experiences, you said you generally try to get back to people whenever they do that.
Yeah, please do reach out. Honestly, anyone, just reach out and say that you listen to it and have a chat. Yeah, my Instagram's JWillChillerman, so J Will WILLCHILLERMAN, and we can chat on there for sure. I've met a lot of good people from your podcast because I listen to them and then I reach out to them, and like Simon, and then Simon Wills, he comes down to my fight. I never met the guy in my life, and he comes down and watches me fight. What a legend.
There's just one last thing I want to say is that, so if you're listening, check out Jarrett's fight on the 25th of May down in Melbourne at the Melbourne Pavilion. Make a weekend out of it. Fly down to Melbourne if you're not from the area, or you can watch it online. And I'm telling you, it's entertaining on a number of levels, and if you haven't listened to my first episode with Jarrett, go back and check it out in the THT back catalogue. You can find that episode and 187 other episodes at terriblehappytalks.com. If you like to listen on the major platform directories such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, Overcast, it always helps if you follow and subscribe. You get notified and stay up to date. But if you've listened to my last episode I did with Dennis Walker, he is an advocate and somewhat of a spokesperson for psychedelics. He has some really interesting insights and education around that topic, which is something Jarrett and I spoke a lot about today. And drop me a comment or a DM, or Jarrett as well, and just tell us what you think. What's your opinion? And do you have any more questions? And let's get the conversation going so we can educate in a safe way and do it in a communal way as well. That's it for me. You, Mr. Jarrett Wilbraham, everybody.